the government's terrible at picking winners. Like, let's be honest.
Yep.
VCs are great at picking winners. Maybe they should be involved in these consortium and trying to help. But if I'm king for a day, it's getting the right contracting vehicle, having just a cohort of brilliant individuals who want to solve problems. And it's also getting the operators in there who have those problem sets.
You know, what is, as you look forward and you see Tradewinds pushing on how we buy and the speed with which we can acquire things, and you see DAU potentially taking a role as what I think has been missing, which is, what is that front door? Where do I go?
Yeah.
And how do I take stock of like the totality of, you know, all this innovation and R&D and sort of experimentation? Like, where are we looking at that to gain efficiencies and actually identify capability to transfer to the warfighter?
Yeah, I love your comments about like a Sherpa. You consistently have mentioned in the past, like needing a Sherpa to get through all these organizations. I'm very fortunate, you know, at IntelliBridge to allow me to support organizations like SVDG, where we're trying to be a conduit there to sort of translate that message between those various organizations to point people in the right direction and maybe, you know, both help and hinder at certain times where we're trying to support these companies as they're engaging, the venture capital community as they're engaging. So what does that look like? I think you got to break it down into like, procurement is completely messed. I think that's just like, first and foremost, if there was ever a problem that I would want to tackle, it's that you shouldn't need to go and, you know, work with an SI to get on their contract vehicle to sell a great product that the customer wants, they have funding for, you have a great capability that's been proven. To me, that seems absolutely, you know, asinine. Sorry if I can't say that. Like, it's asinine that you have to go through the rigmarole of trying to find the right vehicle. I mean, seeing in the M&A landscape, companies get acquired just for having contract vehicles.
That was the PU roll-up. The whole push for like 18 to 21 was who's got the right contract vehicles in FCL.
It blows my mind.
We can just bolt things in under them.
Yeah, and now, you know, you're seeing great programs. So DARPA has the Bridges program, which I haven't really been too involved in or seen the success where you can
definitely
get access.
keeping an eye on that, though. That has the interesting promise.
Watching what they're doing there. I mean, obviously DIU has, you know, the right authorities. I think they have that connective tissue to be able to do it. But even so, I've seen companies that have struggled to get on contract over there. So the fact that the CDAO is thinking about this, you know, the CTO was on a panel. We were on a panel 2 weekends ago talking about AI. And again, this sort of idea that you can create an ecosystem and a test bed and a mechanism for people to actually try before you buy or understand what exists with these AI tools in a secure, transparent, explainable manner. Like, that's the future there. It's awesome. It's the ability to pivot. And I think this is what, you know, Second Front has done and startups do, is pivot. And that's what I think we've lost our ability. And maybe I hope that we'll get back from like a federal government perspective, is that's where we're going to compete, is our ability to pivot and quickly move in directions of things that are right. So not to jump to a bunch of topics there, but that's how you do it.
It's important. And I mean, I think it is, right? If we take the authorities that already exist, which are enabling, you know, Tradewinds to do what it's doing and DIU to do what it's doing, right? To your point, I don't think it's a full sort of procurement overhaul. Like, we don't need new congressional mandates.
Stuff exists,
it all already exists. But if you look at some of the like the major muscle movers and look at, you know, AFWERX, CDAO Tradewinds, look at DIU, and look at In-Q-Tel. And you put that together, there's a way to drive absolutely outsized value and to be able to pivot. The hard part, and I think, again, I go back to sort of the interesting stuff in like Chairman's Mark and NDA that came out of Hask, like the wedge sort of concept in there is interesting. Where I think this all falls short is you get in, you scale, you get adoption, and then you get to a PEO.
And
it's like one of those cartoons where like the wall just doesn't move. And everybody hits
thinking
the
Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah,
that
100%. The anvil just drops on you. And that's where I think, you know, if we can figure out how to actually create on-roads or on-ramps or in-roads, whatever the right, so that we actually do transition, would change the game.
And there's been this attempt, right? And I won't open up the SBIR bucket, but I'm going to do it. Like, there's been this discussion point that that's what the SBIR program should have been. You know, regardless of the tax that it is and how it impacts those larger programs, like, you know, getting to that phase 3, right? The ultimate goal, the commercialization, well, if we're going to use that then, and the start is going to be cyber, and then you're going to transition to an OT, and you're going to bring on some venture capital so that you can scale that, or private equity to scale that, then we need to have sort of just a transparent, like, here's the process flow then. But cyber doesn't work that way. And, some of the way that CRADAs or PIAs or other OTs don't necessarily work that way. And then you got to transition, and you got to get to that, infamous program of record and so forth. So I don't know.
And it makes it so hard. I mean, you and I have been in this game for as long as we can remember, and we still struggle to, succinctly define that path. Yeah. And then to define it is challenging and elusive in itself, but to go execute it.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if those of us that have done the summit 100 times are still like, oh, this sucks. How are we to bring in a bunch of actual commercial tech that otherwise is not interested or is not incentivized to come in and contribute?
That's why we keep the fight going every single day. I don't think anybody has it figured out, but again, you learn, you pivot, you hit the walls, and you keep trying. And I loved on the last podcast, your guest talked about hiring for enthusiasm. I feel like, again, the ability to pivot, we also need the enthusiasm back. Like working on these problems, and maybe a couple of years ago, it wasn't fun or cool to defend democracy or the democratic republic that we have. It should be. And everybody should have that enthusiasm. Like, why I get up each morning and absolutely love this is because what happens if we don't have this? Oh, right?
Amen.
It's the, what if this didn't exist? What if we weren't all fighting, for peace on earth, as Tony Stark would say? That's why we're here. That's why this is important. So you just keep pivoting. You just keep pushing forward.
Find ways to make it better.
Yeah, and we're going to do it. Yeah. We will win.
I love that.
Yeah, we will absolutely win.
That sort of relentless pursuit at just continuing to improve.
Yeah. You'll learn every day.
Yeah.
Nobody has this figured out. Like you said, the path it's non-linear.
Yeah.
It's not the same for every company or any technology.
It's like a quantum path. It's just,
oh my God. We're going to get in the quantum realm.
No, so here's, we're bringing in sort of like a new question as a structured question as we sort of turn the final corner in here.
Yeah.
And given sort of your diverse background, having done, M&A stuff, having done pure play sort of commercial tech, having done product, done roll-ups and PE, all of that. King for a day.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got the ability to sort of wave the wand and make something change in this industry. What is it and why?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Man, I think it's the contract vehicle to rule them all. I think, breaking down that barrier of having the right vehicle and then acting as that intermediary, because I don't think having the best technology in a certain area is going to allow that scalability. So being a conduit to that. And I've been arguing for many years that, the OT consortiums that exist, it's a fallacy. It's a flawed model. Maybe I'm going to piss off some folks with that, but
I have spent a lot of time and effort trying to derive value out of it.
The notion's not wrong. The idea is not wrong.
The idea is great.
Getting everybody together, providing them the right contracting mechanism, providing that conduit for the federal government to understand, how do you evaluate the best technology? The government's terrible at picking winners. Let's be honest.
Yep.
VCs are great at picking winners. Maybe they should be involved in these consortium and trying to help. Yep. And maybe the incentives are necessarily aligned to push forward. We kind of saw that with their, club room or whatever that was, where the,
I was going to say, dude, DoD would be doing crypto right now if we let VCs pick.
And we had, AVCC, we've seen this sort of model tried before, but if I'm king for a day, it's, getting the right contracting vehicle, having just a cohort of brilliant individuals who want to solve problems. And it's also getting the operators in there who have those problem sets. Just saw this great Wired article about, Task Force 59 and some of the testing and evaluation that they're doing in the field. Some of the stuff that I'm fortunate enough to get to experience on a day-to-day, sitting on a couple of contracts, those folks have the problem that not everybody's going to understand. And that has to be translated sometimes when it's, up domain and you need to get that info down domain in an unclass. But that bringing together everybody, that's the ultimate vision.